Everyone wants to rework Slasher. I see it in the comments, I see it in all the discords. Slasher needs a rework, man. He's outdated, he's weak, he can't keep up. And I'm going to be real with you. That take is not just wrong. It tells me the people saying it don't actually understand what Slasher is supposed to be. So in this video, we're going to be doing two things. First of all, I'm going to show you the kind of killer that Slasher is, and why his kit makes a complete sense for his role. And then I'm going to explain about game design perspective, why a full rework would only hurt the game, not better it. So stick around, I'm sure there'll be something thought-provoking here. Anyways, let's get straight into the video. Even though I said straight, like and subscribe pretty please now that I remember to say it. Let's start from the beginning, because I think a lot of people in this rework discourse, quote unquote, is coming from people who don't really understand the problem. They're misidentifying it. So, okay, what is Slasher? Well, Slasher, he is a rushdown and he's a stealth killer. He lives and he dies in close quarters. He has no ranged options, of course. His entire game plan is getting in your face and trying his best to stay there. Now that comes with very obvious weaknesses. If a survivor loops very well, he struggles. If they play far from him, make him and chase them across the map, his stamina can become a bit more of a problem than other killers, even though, of course, stamina drain rage. He's very punishing to play at a low level because the margin of error in a chase for him should be relatively small. But he gets tools in his kit that helps him in what ways they can. First of all, he has a lower terror radius than every other killer in the game, meaning when he's getting near you, it's much harder to know when he's near you. His hitboxes generally linger for longer than other killers, and it makes it easier to catch survivors if they're juking or to drag to a survivor, though of course that kind of is countered by gas, but it's fine. His M1 bleed stacks. He applies bleed every time he M1s you, but it actually stacks unlike a lot of the other status effects. So it means even if you hit two hits simultaneously, you don't lose out on that damage from the bleed not stacking. Behead is a pretty decent way to finish off kills, and if you're using it at a raging pace to get big damage. Of course, Gashing Wound helps you punish survivors if they miss an ability on you. And then you have Raging Pace, which is your main crutch. It allows you to get around noose, gives you a second wind in chase, and allows you to keep up much better than a lot of the other killers can in prolonged chases. Its entire kit is built around a single philosophy. If you get close enough for long enough, you're gonna win. The problem isn't that his kit's incoherent. The problem is that it's hard getting close enough when the survivors know what they're doing. That is not the same thing as being broken. That's just weakness and something you have to learn how to work around. Oh, so that guy's gonna get around. I'm so sorry. That's not A, it's B. Anyways, moving on. Moving on from that, before we talk about Slasher specifically, I want to lay out something I really think is missing from every balanced discussion about reworks in this game. When should you actually rework a character? Not when they feel too weak, not when you keep losing to them, not when they're too strong, not when you keep losing to them. Those are not really the conditions of a rework. Those are the conditions of buffs, metas, skills, stuff like that. A rework is a genuine kit overhaul, at least a good partial one. It's only really truly justified considering the work it takes when there's a couple things that is true. The first one is when a character's design creates unavoidable feel-bad moments regardless of skill level. On Old 1X you could think of this as when you get hit by entanglement, you have to do pop-ups. If you're on PC, you're always going to be slower than other devices. God forbid you're on console. It's a unavoidable, oh, I'm stunned here longer than I would be if I was on a different control device. Not this is hard to play against, but there is no true counterplay. It is unfair by design. The second situation where you need a rework is when the character's kit is fundamentally incoherent, when the abilities aren't really working towards the same goal or have the same theme. The playstyle the kit implies is different from the playstyle that's actually winning games. The character has no identity. The closest thing to this in Forsaken is Nos, but I think the easiest way to compare him is he's the second all-rounder killer of Forsaken. The first, of course, being Cool Kit. They both have a theme in their kit, which is being able to apply to a lot of situations, but no situation super well. A third example is when the character is so weak or so broken, no amount of adjustments would fix it. The floor or ceiling is baked into the design itself, something that is not true with Slasher, especially if you saw the proposed rework where he just is unstoppable. He's completely unstoppable no matter what. Anyways, that's it. That is the legitimate threshold you need for a rework. Everything else, difficulty, matchup, spread, low player rate, community opinion, those are buffs and nerfs, not needing of reworks. And there's something you must remember when you rework a character. When you apply a rework, you completely lose that playstyle like that original character forever in most cases. There's no way to play that again, so you have to have a good reason for taking away that playstyle or that character from players. Anyways, I want you to hold those criteria in your head, at least for the next part of the video, please, because we're going to go through Slasher with these one by one. Okay, now it's time to actually apply what we've discussed. The first criteria, does Slasher create any unavoidable feel-bad moments? And I do not think they do. Every single one of his tools is in his kit, they all have counterplay. So it's stuff like Behead, you can bait it, he gets punished for it. Stuff like Gashing Wound, it has Wind Up, you can create distance. Stuff like that, you can bait it out. Raging Pace might be the one that feels like it to newer players. Now yes, that's true. If you're in a solo chase, like if you're a noob, there's not much you can do. If you can get a Bloxy Cola off, sure, maybe. But like if you're a support, there's no counterplay, you can't juke around it, no. The counterplay to Raging Pace is teamwork. And I know that sucks in Forsaken because there's a lot less teamwork than we would like. But that is just the fact of, you can get teamwork, you can have counterplay. It's hard, but that's the point. It's his main ability. Or as some people would like to call it, his X factor. It's the way he does his job and the best thing in his kit to do it. Anyways, moving on into criteria 2, is his kit coherent? I just spent 2 minutes explaining his kit to you and it told one very consistent story. Get close, apply pressure, punish mistakes, bleed them out, you know, every ability feeds into that. M1 does it perfectly. It's a basic attack, it does it like every other M1 in the game. It's not very reactable, it does all of its stuff, it comes out fast, it does its job well. Behead makes it so if they're just about to barely escape you with some of their life less, you can confirm the kill without much issue. If you miss it, sure, you get slowness, but you can regen and you can go back. But overall, it allows you to finish off kills where you might have not done so otherwise. Gashing Wound is your burst damage. If you get in their face, if they mess up and you're in their face, 50 HP of their health gone at the very least. Probably more because when you kick them down, you're guaranteed a single M1 at the very, very least. And Raging Pace, of course, it works so that when you're still in their face, you can stay in it. It's your clutch tool. When your stamina bottoms out, it keeps you in the chase. Where like Cruel Kid, Noli would be maybe gambling. You have that solid, confirmable tool to make sure you don't fall behind. And of course, Terror Radius plays into his stealth approach. He doesn't have any breathing noises, nothing like that. So he is able to play stealthy based on stuff like that. And realistically, the kit itself has more identity than like half the roster's kit, like Rejuvenate the Rotten. Where does that come into play with 1X? And finally, criteria 3. Is he so broken in either way, like too strong, too weak, that tuning can't fix him? And I would also say no. His issues, specifically stamina management and looping vulnerability, let's go through them. Stamina management is obviously a skill. There's no changing that you're going to do that's going to get this player out of that, and that's kind of a good thing. It's a stamina based ASIM. Learning stamina management, using your stamina well, that's an important thing. Now, looping vulnerability is the one place where you could say something's technically reworked that needs to be changed, which is for looping vulnerability. After Raging Pace, there's an unavoidable feel bad moment, not for the survivor but for the killer. If there's a Shadetsky, if there's a chance, if there is a lot of things around, you just get hit by something like a stun or a slowdown no matter what you do. So if he had no end lag after Raging Pace, looping vulnerability would be fine. It's just based on how well you can play. Maybe 0.5 movement on it, but overall the designs are not the issues here. It's just a few bad things done on them that can be changed without reworking the entire thing from the ground up. So as I've talked about, he does not meet a single criteria for a rework, not a single one that I've talked about. But what would actually be the cost of reworking him? Let's say the community gets what they want, so let devs listen, they rework, and they start over on Slasher. What realistically happens? The most likely outcome is that they rework very aggressively. Close range characters, when they're reworked, typically become less close range and they lose their identity. In the way of, they soften edges, they might make hitboxes bigger than they need to be, hitbox accurate slasher, ha. And maybe they'll add a limited range option, reduce the skill requirement for his original purpose. And what you get after this is a killer that's easier to play, more consistent, at a low level of course, and more indistinguishable from half the roster. Basically, Cool Kid Evoke Speed Override did not go far and was just a grab move. Command grab Cool Kid, okay? And that's not something I would want personally. You lose the thing that makes Slasher interesting, the tight resource management, the high payoffs when you get it right, the identity as the real stealth and rushdown character in the game who has to earn every kill feels deserved. That's gone. The players who are bad at Slasher that are calling for a rework are the people who realize that buffing isn't working, who ask for a rework, don't realize that when their wish is granted, the game would be slightly less interesting overall as a result. And to confirm, I made sure I wasn't going insane while writing this. I went and checked. Dead by Daylight, a game I don't like, but it has done it. Team Fortress 2 has done this before. You make high skill characters more accessible to everyone, and it doesn't feel right calling Slasher high skill character, because he's one of the easiest characters in the game, but his skill floor is a bit higher than everyone else when it comes to fighting competent people because of the fact he's a weaker character. But that is not baked into his kit. Anyways, after you change a character like this, you're just going to end up with something more bland that nobody ends up feeling that strongly about. Slasher's difficulty and his weakness is not like a bug in his design. It kinda is the design. It's a learning curve, and that's kind of the point of it. You get good at him, you feel it, because the game gives you real feedback, real reward. You get your dopamine, finally. That feedback loop is valuable, and it is worth protecting. All he would need to keep it intact is a few buffs, not a rework. So where does this all leave us? If Slasher does need a rework, and there's so many real complaints about him, and people are genuinely struggling with him, all of that, what is the real answer? The answer is, once again, and we've talked about it many times on this channel, the answer is minor targeted buffs. Not a kit rebuild, not new abilities replacing old ones, incremental improvement to numbers that would make his kit work. And this is not the same as the current rework that they were thinking of. And lowering gashing, wound, and lag and wind up turns it from a punish tool into a, oh, I pressed E and you're dead now. What he actually needs is super armor like he has on the end of gashing wound on his raging pace M1. A few lunge distance and damage buffs to behead to make sure it can secure kills a bit earlier than your M1 would have, and make sure it goes further than your M1 would have. Maybe Raging Pace's movement penalty could be looked at, the time window on gashing wounds and lag, maybe that could be worked on, even though the windup should not really be touched. These are conversations worth having. But a bigger and more important answer, in my opinion, for the community overall is investment and understanding in his playstyle. Because a lot of the suffering Slasher players go through is not a kit problem, it's a obviously buffs problem if it's a strong team, but also a decision-making problem I see on a lot of players when to use Raging Pace, how to use it at the end of it, how to use the map to make sure you close extra distance, catch survivors in open space, all that, how to use his lower terror radius to catch people, all that. The skill gap is in a big way closable. It does need to be designed away. And the devs just reworking Slasher would not do any of that real justice. Look, I get it. Playing Slasher can be hard if when you're not looking to sweat your balls off against fucking top 50, 500,000 hours on the game Shadatsky who decide to come into a pub server and hit you with every single slash possible. Even ones he should not have hit. Playing against someone who knows what they're doing is a rough experience and a lot of times, even outside of Slasher. But hard is not the same as broken design. Difficult is not the same thing as fundamentally flawed. Yes, he needs buffs, and yes, the devs should definitely buff him. But not too much, because that would also do the same thing as a rework in underselling what he's meant to do. And especially for a killer like Slasher, who sits in that fine balance of, he's currently the weakest killer, but if you buffed him, he'd be the strongest killer very, very easily. it's something you have to be careful with. If you still want Slasher to be reworked, I want you to tell me in the comments, what do you think is genuinely incoherent about his kit? Because from where I'm standing, I honestly don't see why you'd want him reworked. Maybe you don't like him, sure, but why would you not want that new character idea you have to come with a new killer, so we can keep our one of our original 4 killers in the game, but we have a new playstyle on top of that. Slasher players are happy, and people who don't like him have another killer kinda like him to be happy with. Winners, if you have something, drop in the comments. And if you think this video was just wrong in any other way, tell me that too. I love seeing responses to videos, even if I don't have time to respond to every single one for obvious reasons. Like if you think Slasher is fine, sub for more Forsaken videos. Anyways, that's about it. See ya.